To begin.
Check, check, check. You're listening to KQBHLP, Los Angeles, California, 101.5 FM, a community service of the Boyle Heights Arts Conservatory, broadcasting live on your FM dial and streaming on kqbhla.com. You're listening to The Social Primate with your host, Eddie Aguirre, and today we have a packed room. We have the Valley Views youth interns, right? Yes. Along with Hector himself. Thank you so much for making the time to come out here, Hector. First and foremost, it is awesome to have basically the streams crossing over. Yeah, you guys are 101.5 KROJ, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, KQBH 101.5. We're here making it happen, a collaboration between the Boyle Heights area and San Fernando.
Yeah, no, it's really great to be here, being here in community. And I also, thanks for the invitation, Eddie. And not only that, yeah, it's just great to see local community radios joining forces, but then also just knowing what community radios are all about, you know, and seeing it here at Boyle Heights and growing, and also, of course, in the San Fernando Valley with KROJ.
Hey.
You know?
No,
That's
I mean,
what it's all about.
Yeah, hell yeah. You know, and I think one of the important things to point out on this is that we're separated in a sense by the geography, but the issues, the conversations, the dialogues that we want to create, they all have similar like themes and topics on it, right? And I think it's important to take note of that, because once you really think about it, it means that we're not isolated to our problems in our community. You know, it broadens up, and that can connect us even deeper.
Exactly. And I think that's really actually one of the reasons that when I was thinking about a show back in 2019 and it was Valley Views, it was about that, because in our communities in San Fernando, like probably in other communities, especially Black and brown communities, you have sometimes the corporate media that might only focus on certain negative aspects of our community at times. And that's when you sometimes see more of a presence of them, a shooting, a stabbing, or a car chase and things of that sort. And I think as we talk about community, I think it was all about, I want Valley Views to be a platform for highlighting and uplifting goodness that's happening all around our community.
Exactly. Now, before we get a little deeper into this conversation, I do want to introduce the crew here.
Yes.
We have Grace, Natalie, Caesar, Vanessa, and Derek.
That's right.
Thank you guys for making that out here. You know, and it's interesting to have you guys all here, because you guys are basically listening to this as it comes out, and you guys get to make your own opinions or perspectives of what we're talking about as it happens. So, you know, it's great to have you guys here, and I hope that this conversation, along with the audience listening, can take some information out of this and apply it to themselves.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of background since we jumped into this. Early on, when I kind of started my journey through podcasting or just having conversations, it really started off with me just wanting to find stories that related to me. And just, again, like you mentioned, focus on stories that focused on the better cultural nuances of us, rather than just the negativity and the dehumanization that we hear sometimes on TV nowadays, or just media in general. And for me, again, it started just by simply being curious. Like, I wanted to find out more about things. I wanted to be able to just, I don't know, dissect my community and figure out where I stood in all of this. So to have you guys on here, it's a fresh take on what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that word, kind of like dissecting, because it's like you're trying to go deeper than the surface.
Yeah.
And you're really trying to, and I think that's part of what I'm trying to, and the rest of the adults, the legacy volunteers that we have at Valley Views, and big shout out to them, is this, to have the youth also dissect and go deep. I don't want them to just be superficial with their learning or superficial with their experiences. And it's taking time, and it'll continue to take more time to develop that. But this is the reason why I feel like I do what I do, because of the people that we have right here. Grace and Natalie, Derek, Vanessa, and Caesar here. Yeah.
Now, I mean, I do want to get your guys' opinion on this. Like, how do you feel being involved in this at such a young age?
I think it's very important for young people to be part of their community more, because we are the future generation. We are the making of the community, the next batch anyways. And to be a part of something that gets our voices out, gets our opinions out, like what Mr. Perez said, to dissect things even further, I believe that is true, because when we go to school, we only have the surface level of knowledge. And once we get into college, only then do we get a little bit deeper. So I think it's a great opportunity that at such a young age, especially in high school, when we're learning about ourselves, about our community, about other people outside of our community, we get that knowledge.
Yeah. Anybody else want to pitch in on that?
Yeah, it's a good way, and it's fun to be with the community, learning new stuff out in the community. Something that we have done is the outdoor market. That's where a lot of people from the community go, like little pop-up shops go. They walk around. I play music, and yeah, it's a good way. good opportunity.
Now, you mentioned there's something really important in regards to just, going beneath the superficial stuff. Because at first, again, some context for myself, when I first started doing this, I was super shy. I didn't want to be hanging out with a bunch of groups of people and less having a full-on conversation about these type of things. But through the exposure, right? The exposure was important for me to start breaking out of that shell. And honestly, that took, maybe I was in my mid-20s maybe, till I figured out that I can move with purpose. So being able to see the youth at this point take that upon themselves to, something that you proactively want to chase, that's deep and powerful.
And the other thing that I noticed too so much with our youth and the volunteers that do so much work with us is that not only is it inspirational to be able to be in community with our media production, but also it's like a foundation that we have built to teach our youth the power of media, the power of storytelling, the power of photography as a way to capture moments, the power of videography for activism. And so it's really giving our youth and the adults that work with us the how-to and the ways to develop your own skills and your craft in order to make an actual change and an impact in our community in real ways. Like you said, not superficial, but really get to know folks in the community, know how to work with folks. Recently, I was reading a quote, something to the extent of, you don't necessarily have to be friends with everyone that you're in community with, but being in community means that you're able to be okay with people's differences, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily are going to turn your backs on them. And so I think it's really important that community can be a little messy, but I also want to show the youth that community means that, kind of what you were saying, it's you have to get out of that comfort shell. You have to be able to do what the youth are doing. They came out here and they were a little scared, a little shy, a little timid, but little by little what I've noticed is that the more time they spend with us and the more time they develop their own communication skills and using the tools that they have with us here and in the studio and in our community, the more confidence I see in them. And I think that's part of also what we do at Valley Views when we uplift folks is we try to build confidence in our community as well.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. And, I think it's important to note that at the same time, instead of just absorbing the information, you become passive to this. Once you start becoming involved, you start becoming the creator of this information, right? And at the same time, that only creates your own, it gives you a better sense of your worth, because you're able to take full control of that narrative and you're able to see oh man, I actually have value. People, my stories can be heard and they have this weight to them.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I see. Go ahead, Natalie. Jump on in there.
Question about community. What do you guys view community as? What is community to you guys?
That's a good question because I think about that pretty often. I have come to realize, like Hector said, that we don't always have to see eye to eye on things, but we have to come to an understanding where we can have open dialogue and at least have an understanding of our wants and needs, and then be able to figure out a balance or a middle ground where we can work towards that.
And I think also, and that's a good question, Nadia, I'm grateful that you are thinking like this too, because one, curiosity, but two, just naturally wanting to know these things. And I think community can be defined, I guess, by everyone just a bit different. But I think for me, community has to do with even what we experienced earlier today as we were waiting for the show today and walking down Cesar y Chavez. We just walked around and I told them, just soak it in. This is a community right here. Mm-hmm. Look at the folks at the unisex. Look at the folks at the barbershop. Look at the folks at the liquor store. Just kind of we got some churros. Big shout out to the churro lady down the street from here, and we were just talking to them and they were so grateful. Oh, wow. They're doing the youth are here. They're taking pictures. Mm-hmm. And, they were saying oh, Vanesita, she knew what a lechera is, but community is that. I think community is seeing youth, elderly people that live in a certain area kind of able to just talk to each other, share a moment. I think community can also be, I think there's a distinction between community and cliques, because cliques could be very closed off versus communities where you're more open to having folks in to your own conversations, to your way of thoughts, but also, again, realizing that not all community is going to think like you. Communities, folks that physically you live around. Could be your neighbors. It could be folks that you interact with on a daily, or folks for example, for us, the folks that we work with at the San Fernando Outdoor Market, folks that we work at Pueblo Salud, at KROJ, those are all our community. For me, like, you guys are also part of my community. Our youth, the legacy volunteer adults that do work with you guys, that's part of the community. So I think community could be like very broad at times, but it could be also like everyone you run into in the street, like in the car, that's part of the community. But I think also community really to me is like the folks that you like are always working to improve like each other to some extent. That's part of a community too, to me.
Oh, while you're talking, Mr. Perez, I have a realization that our two communities, our two podcasts, we're coming together to make essentially one big community. Mm-hmm. So we're actually finding connections and something that, like you said, we could build upon, learn from, and maybe connect even more. So we're making our own little community right now. So that's
exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. The Valley Views Youth Media. You guys are your own community. Think about that. Thursdays at lunch when we get together, that's community right there. See? So you guys are probably a part of many different communities, you know?
Yeah. And also to go back on what you said of being your own creator and how we were talking about taking pictures, activism. I remember that a few months ago where students from all over the districts came together to protest against the immigration and the deportation. And I think that since they didn't like what the story was happening right now, what the news were, they didn't like that. So they wanted to create their own because we wanted to become our own creators.
Right.
And I actually liked how you put it because it's actually very true. If we don't like the story of how it is right now, we should just create a new one.
Exactly. And that's where the whole aspect of storytelling comes in because, I mean, that's something that's ingrained in us, right? Like the revolution, it's the stories. We will gather around the fire and tell these stories, tell each other where things are at and all that. And that build the community. Again, it build your tribes, it build community, it expanded family, it goes deeper than that. And I think when you really take a look at it, like when you reflect on, right now we were mentioning, you mentioned about the protests. Similar thing, like we don't all agree on everything. I'm sure if we ask anybody in those protests certain questions, not everybody's going to agree on the same thing. But we all agree on the core of it. This is not right. This is a human rights issue. So I think it's important to remember that although we have so many things happening that make us, like we have these bigger things that we can really focus on. And those are the bigger picture things that we need to really hyper-focus into. And just like we're doing right now, we're bringing San Fernando Valley together with Boyle Heights and East LA here.
Yeah. Come on.
That shows like we're capable of bringing each other together and uplifting our stories. And again, changing the narrative. Right now, if I turn on the news, I'm sure I'm going to see 50 different headlines of negative stuff in regards to immigrants or people who may just look like us. But when we take control of these narratives, we start showing we're more than that. We're not simply just these images that we're thrown at.
Exactly. No, that. What about you guys? Any thoughts on like what a community is? Derek, you haven't said a word yet. Like, what is community to you, Derek? Come on now.
Means to me like being united together and like how can I say just being united, like helping each other out for little things. Let's say we see a little vendor out in the streets like a raspado man, a lote man, you help them out, like just buy a little drink or something like that. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because a couple of weeks ago I went around LA and in the Southeast LA area and I was recording some of the student protests. And back in 2006, I was able to partake when I was in high school in these walkouts. So seeing the students come out and get together and, again, over one single issue, that to me was beautiful because, one, it spoke volumes of what you guys feel is important. And sometimes I think as an older person, you think about the youth, you brush it away like, they're too young. They don't know what they're talking about. And that's something that you guys are probably going to get for a good amount of years until you get older and then you start reflecting on the next youth. But what's being removed when you put those people in that box is that these issues are important for us, for you guys. And history has shown that student protests, students being activated have created change in big movements. So I think that's one thing that the power that they're trying to remove from you by trying to criminalize what you're doing or just minimize all the efforts that you're putting into this. So I think it's okay to feel like you sometimes don't have the control, but not to forget that you got to continue telling the stories regardless of what's going on.
The most important thing you have is your voice. You don't realize the power you have until it's taken away. And I do not want to realize that. So I hope that everybody in our community, especially the youth, because we are the next generation, and and people who believe that we don't have the knowledge or understanding of how things work, which is entirely not true, because some of the youth, including myself, we take care of children that's requiring communication skills, knowledge about cooking, cleaning, focusing on certain things. And also when we go to school, we have to prioritize homework over simple pleasures like just laying around, enjoying your peace. So people don't realize that teenagers, even little kids, have such a deep understanding and awareness of one another, because we're all humans. We all learn. Every day we learn, and we should not underestimate each other.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, at the end too, like having this self-representation is also a form of decolonization. Like you're taking that power back, right? And that's ultimately what we want to be able to be capable of doing.
Exactly. And just hearing everybody talk here, the youth especially, again, it just reminds me, Eddie, of not only are they the future leaders, but I always like to say, as an educator also, I always like to say, these are our leaders of today as well. And they're capable of so much right now. And it makes me happy to know that they're reflecting, they're thinking about things that, again, like has meaning in their life, purpose in their life, and that will continue to guide them as they continue to grow and have more experiences as well. But they literally are like leaders in many ways of today, not just of the near future. Yeah. It hypes me up, Eddie, is what I have to say. I'm like, oh, yeah, I love to hear it.
I love to hear it too. And just so we can get a little context of what Valley Views is, like, when did that start, Hector? Like, what was the idea behind that?
Yeah, so that started back in 2019. Back in 2019, actually, and the little ones here are like, wow, 2019, that was a long time ago for me in the ancient times. But back in 2019, towards the last quarter of the year, a buddy of mine had reached out to me from undergrad, and we ran into each other actually at a alumni event. And he's like, yo, we're starting this new radio station out in our community, and we would love to have you as one of our hosts. There wasn't any shows at the time yet. And in fact, that's how KQBH and KRJ were founded, because they applied for the same license at the same time as a collective, actually. And so we just had a little bit of airtime. We were sharing it actually with, I think it was several other stations, not just us here. And but long story short, he asked me, at first I wasn't sure. They're like, I think you would be good to talk about education issues, things of that sort. And I was like, I wanted to do that, but I also was like, I teach every day and I love it, but I don't know if I want to also have a show on that. And that's when I was telling you, like, we had just several bad incidents that happened in our community, as if that's the only thing that happens. The media was reporting on that. As I was thinking about what type of radio show I wanted to have, bam, I was like, I definitely want to make something related to uplifting and having a highlight on our community, individuals, ordinary folks doing extraordinary things in our community. Yeah. And so that's when I was like, I want to have a show that has to do with that. And that's how Valley Views was born. And we started our first show December of 2019. And now over 213 episodes in, Valley Views is still around. And there has been many people that have come through Valley Views and have done a lot of different amazing things. Some have their own shows now. And it's great to see like how folks have come in through Valley Views and then spread their wings and fly. Yeah, exactly. And also continuing to develop the Valley Views youth interns. But yeah, it started back in 2019 and here we are. We're still doing it.
That's awesome. You brought something up right now in regards to like spreading their wings. I think when you're exposed to what is possible, you have the ability to imagine what can be done in your communities. Like for a long time, I didn't know KQBH was a thing, and this place has been here for 6 years. I think the station itself, correct me if I'm wrong, people, but it's around that time frame. But even then, like knowing that the space was available, now I think about Southeast LA and I'm wondering like, wow, that's crazy that we have access to this stuff, that this type of media was gate-kept for a long time. And now we have the ability to, even if it's a podcast, right? Like I mentioned, when I started, I was recording out of my car. Like me and my friends will hang out in the car, roll the windows up and talk, put the phone in the middle and talk for a whole hour. Just all because we wanted to capture the stories, right? It didn't matter what kind of equipment we had. It was just the need to get it out there.
Yeah.
And then from there, I've slowly upgraded. I was recording out of some old jacuzzi before, like some bathhouse. Like everything sounded like I was inside the bathroom.
But that sounded like an upgrade for the car. Okay, moving on up. Okay, that's chill.
More leg room.
And slowly, it's just a process that you got to stay consistent. So as long as you feel passionate about what you're trying to bring to the community.
Exactly. No, and I think that's what it's all about in general. I think the growth of ourselves, the growth of the things that we're passionate about. And so it's great to hear that too from you, like the things that, how you've grown yourself, Yeah.
You spread your own wings.
I spread my own wings, yeah. Now I'm in this spot, which is a huge upgrade from the bathroom, right? But outside of that, again, it just goes to show, like, if you really want to get something done, it doesn't matter what resources you have. Just be creative, find creative solutions to what you're trying to create, and then slowly you start getting the tools that you need to keep evolving and stepping up, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a great thing that you guys should definitely keep in mind. And I want to hear a little bit more from you guys itself. Like, how do you feel being put in positions where you have two adults here basically trying to keep you guys connected to the community? Is there like pushback? Do you feel like sometimes there's on your guys' end?
Not necessarily pushback from I felt before. However, from what Mr. Perez said, I want to prove people wrong. That my community is not safe or it's violent. It's not that at all. It could be, it is so much more. It's a beautiful place. There's generations of family there who were now in political fields, who are serving the military, who could be as simple as working at the DMV, just serving each other, serving our community. And I just want to show people that, no, we're not just this. We are also this and this. We're all these good things. And we shouldn't just be represented all this bad, because we're not just bad. And I won't say that we aren't, because every community has that rotten apple, that cracked egg, because not everybody's perfect. Nobody is. But we do have some rays of light in us. Yeah.
I like that.
Going back to what Natalie said, not all communities are bad. Like, just actually, my grandpa actually served in the military for a while, and right now he was working until like he got hurt. But what's it called? Not everybody's bad. Natalie said there's a rotten apple, cracked egg, and yeah. I don't know what else to say.
I also want to talk about it too. Yeah. As communities, there's always going to be something that's always wrong, and that shouldn't always just put us on the spot for everything. There's also positive things that can happen, and that should also put a spotlight onto us, because we're not just all bad. And I also wanted to touch on the expressing yourself also too, express yourself in any type of way, for your community, for yourself, and people around you and what's going on in the world. I really agree on that topic.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and the other thing that as we talk about this too, and to me, it's just every community faces, I think, challenges. But I think that's part of it. As someone, recently we were doing a production. We've been doing some productions in the community called Community Soundwaves, where we take pretty much this theme that we have called From the Studio to the Streets. And so we literally take our studio into the streets and produce shows in the community in different establishments, like coffee shops, for example. And we were setting one up where we're getting ready to do an interview, and Caesar was there for that one. And, we were having some trouble with some equipment, and we're trying to figure it out, technical issues. But someone said to me something that kind of resonates about the challenges in our community. They're like, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And so sometimes challenges present themselves because not everything in life is going to be easy. And that's what our communities are like. Not everything's going to be full agreement. Not everything. Things are messy, just in general. But that's life. Life is messy, right. But we just have to accept that things are messy. But we still have to, again, find community, find the people that can support us when things are even messier, to sort some of that out and find peace.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. So when I hear the rotten apples or cracked eggs, things of that sort, so it's just challenges that people are facing too. And I think the more we could also advocate through our media, through our platforms, broadcasting solutions to some of those challenges, and start reframing it as that too. How can we make our community better? Who do we need to work with to make that happen? Who do we need to collaborate with? Who do we need to partner up with? Who do we need to be able to inspire each other to create a better change just for our community? I think that's when we see more of the differences. Kind of like the idea of, think globally, but act locally, and those type of things are, I think, really important for us to think about as we think about those challenges that we have in our community, and don't always feel like you have to like solve the biggest world problems. It just starts in our local community, and if we could do that, trust, like, you are changing the world in that sense too.
Yeah, and I had an interesting encounter a couple of days ago. I went to my little baby. He's going to get baptized in a couple months. So I had to do the whole classes and all that stuff. Yeah. And so I showed up. It was like an hour class, and they made us sit in different groups, moms, dads, padrinos, and madrinas. And they gave us like this questionnaire, and we all had to, with our group, we had to go down the list of the question we got. Me being the dad, I was in the group of dads. But one thing that I learned that I was not expecting to learn from this class was just how to relate to people on a cultural and community level. And the reason I say this was because I was sitting with 4 different other random guys, right? Everybody came in looking all hard, like serious. Man, I'm going to beat you up. And I was like, damn, this is serious here. But once we started going down the questions, one of the questions was like, how did this affect you? And one example that I brought up was when I was a little kid. This is pretty old school. My parents used to hit me with the chancla and the cinturón, right? And
apparently it's not old school.
Old school and new school. But we related to that in the sense where we were reflecting on why our parents acted this way and what could have led them to that. And from how it started, all tense and nobody was talking and everybody was serious, everybody opened up once we were able to find a common relatable moment. And once that happened, everybody was spilling themselves. Yeah. Like, everybody was vulnerable. And I think through that, like, even if it was short, we all managed to get to a deeper level than we do most of the time with people on the street. Yeah. We don't get to interact with people on that level. So if we're given the opportunity to really kind of delve deep into what connects us, we'll find those connections. Yeah. And then that's how we can start creating that bigger change.
Exactly. And even, when we were outside and getting the churros, one of the gentlemen that was serving us the churros, he was seeing the cameras and all that. And I was like, take pictures. I was like, Vanesita, take some more pictures of the churros. She's like, I already got like a bunch. I was just like all excited about it, like them being out there. But the man that was there working was like, oh yeah, I used to take pictures too. And then he was just like in that, it was just like a 2-minute conversation. But he opened up about his experiences with photography and how he used to develop the film and all of that. But it took him back to that era. But it was because we weren't just there and, okay, give us churros and exchange. It wasn't like that. It was more like, again, like we were just there and just talking to them, saying hi while we were waiting. And they were happy that we were there and we were happy to be there too. So I think, again, going back to almost, again, like where we're at here right now, social primates. We were literally being very social like that with each other. And that's when you open up, you shed some of that toughness, right? Yeah, you shed some of that, which I feel like probably teenagers in general probably go through more of that too in this phase of your life, where there's so much like posturing and so much, like how folks might just look at you and judge you versus you haven't even gotten to know me. Why are you judging me? And I know it happens with adults too, but yeah, I could resonate with that as far as when you have these deeper connections or just a simple, quick conversation could lead to a very fruitful yet sometimes short conversations.
Exactly. And the value you get out of that doesn't necessarily have to be an exchange of goods. It can just be an exchange of energy or ideas. And again, just like this guy got taken back to his youth, it made him appreciate the fact that there's people out here chasing that passion, their craft, or at least partaking in it. Because not every passion that we take on is always going to be something that we're just going to be doing it for the rest of our lives. It changes as it goes. But it's important to be able to just remember and reconnect to that part of ourselves that me being 35 at this point, I'm just like, dang, I remember when I was 16, 17. What were my values back then and how have they evolved to now?
Exactly. No, absolutely. No, it's always an evolution, And I just want to take it back real quick to the youth too, as far as the open-mindedness, I feel, of being part of like community and media. Like, what do you guys think about that? Like being just, do you feel like when you're out in the community things, I'm just curious, like their thoughts on that. Do you feel from your experiences so far, because we've done a lot of different things together in the community, Has that given you like a different point of view or perspective that maybe you didn't have prior to joining Valley View's youth interns?
I say like really, definitely for sure. Doing all of the San Fernando markets, these are like some of the things that we do for like Valley Views. It low-key gave me like a sense of like community, like everybody like groups up and they're like going to all of these pop-up shops and interacting with each other, and like it like gives you a sense of relief and it gives you like a sense of community between like everyone, and like you feel like a sense of belonging at a point. And like to me, it seems so fun to like really go to all of these San Fernando markets when it comes to us as opportunities, and also going to other things. Like one of the things that we had to go to were the Congresswoman's Ones, and that was actually really fun. And seeing all of this happen, and also just giving a sense of like community. And I really like doing all of these opportunities that Perez can give us too. So.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm like, in the community, you could just, I'm Hector, but it's like, I always love how they're like, Mr. Perez, but I love it. But I don't know if anyone else, but I wanted to just say, Natalie's one of our newest interns, but she's taken a quick dive already into our internship. And so far, Natalie, from diving deep into it already in such a short period of time, have you like gotten a different perspective or experiences that were a little different prior to this?
Yes, actually, I've learned a few things about meeting people. Like before, I would just go up to them and say, hi, good morning, how are you? General questions like that. I would just stick around and just, how can I say this? I wouldn't take their words to account deeply. I wouldn't want to learn more about them. However, when I joined and when I met my first guest, I found myself wanting to learn more. I found myself curious, and like what you said earlier, meeting new people, I had to let that guard down because while we're growing up, we're always taught, put your guard up, you can't trust anybody, and which was a little bit difficult to do. But once I found a connection with the person I was talking to, that made it a bit easier.
Yeah.
And I guess that made the communication more flowy. It made it flow better. That's what I'm trying to say. My communication skills and my connectivity with others have improved greatly.
Nice.
And I actually like to say thank you to that, because before I would just be a little bit shy, a little bit timid, and it would take a minute or so for like, okay, I can do this. I got this now. But now I'm like, it's not too bad. These people are not bad. And it's good to learn more about them. It's good to be curious. So yeah, that's a nice thing I learned about.
Yeah, no, I can. That gives you power. Again, it's going to give you the self-confidence. And touching back on what I mentioned earlier, from here you wouldn't be able to tell that I was an introvert. But at some point, man, it was bad. But as the years passed on, I started challenging myself. Like I've been able to moderate and like host like little workshops where I'm one of the speakers. And that's something I never would have thought I was going to be doing. And if I'm being honest, I still get nervous. Like before any interview, I still get nervous, but I'm better at knowing how to manage those emotions.
Yeah.
Breathing through it and just making sure that I'm showing up, hype myself up, and I'm back in the studio and getting it done. But it's going to be a process. And one important thing that you mentioned earlier was that I don't know if it's a society thing, but I think we're kind of been conditioned to be very individualistic about our goals and how we accomplish things. But I think that's part of a systemic oppression thing, because at the end of the day, what it's really trying to stop us from doing is come together and unite.
Yeah.
I think it thrives on us being divided and fighting amongst each other. And the San Fernando Valley people, they suck, or Southeast LA, they suck, stuff like that. But no, that's not the case. Like the reality is we're all sharing struggles. We're all sharing moments. We're all sharing culture moments, more importantly. And I think once we start focusing on that, and again, just like Valley Views is doing, we're focusing on the good stuff that our community, our culture can offer.
Yeah, exactly. And even today, the other thing is, or when we take them places, another place that we went to with our youth and some of our adult legacy volunteers was we went on a field trip to downtown LA and we took them on the metro,
Nice.
For some, it was their first time on the metro, and for others, they had been on it already. But for many, it was their first time. And so it was like a whole different experience. But again, it was like this idea of this is just a larger extent of our city, And it's good for y'all to get exposed to different parts of it.
Yeah.
And to be able to walk around the streets of your city and look at different kind of almost perspectives, you know, like how different people live differently. And it's still our same city, our community. But more importantly, even though there are a lot of differences, there's a lot more similarities. For those that went, like, how was that experience for y'all? Because I think that's the whole idea of kind of like Valley Views, and probably also like in general, like KQBH and KROJ and our local community radio stations, is to really bring about that, yeah, there's a lot of differences out there in our communities, but really there's a lot more similarities. There's a lot more like commonalities that we could actually find that could really bring us together. And I think that's the part that I really want our youth to get, along with the skills, of course, of media and broadcasting and all that. But what was that experience like? I don't know if Derek, do you want to jump in real quick? Like, when you went to downtown LA and experienced that, what was that like for you? You know, and did you notice similarities as well as differences in our communities?
Some similar things that I seen was like families spending time with each other. It was a Sunday morning, so like you would see people like walking, going get breakfast with each other, enjoying like the Sunday morning sun. So we met up right here down in North Hollywood. So we just took down like a couple metros down to downtown LA. And we visited like a plaza. Then we just visited shops near there. Like, we're just taking pictures of certain things around in the city and just exploring. So, yeah.
Now, I do have a question for you guys. Like, how do you approach this conversation with your friends? Like, when they're like, what do you do? What are you doing with Valley Views? And you start bringing up the ideas of communities and all that stuff. What's the feedback you get from them, from your colleagues?
Not gonna lie, a lot of people do ask me, like, what are you doing, Valley Views? What is it? I explain it to them. It's hard to explain. You just gotta be there. It's like, some people won't get it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I explain it on having a voice for the community, because we are an extension of it, because most of our community, we don't have a podcast like everywhere in every home. So we speak upon about it. We go to events, we write newsletters about it, we interview people who work in our community doing great things, and we just spread the awareness of it. So that's what I think Valley Views is about, showing others what our community is and showing what they can do within our community. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else want to jump on that?
It's really difficult to explain because some people, they really don't understand. But I try to explain it with, like, we're in the studio helping out with cameras, live production. And then I also explain that I have my own little show, like, where they can listen. I also explain how we do community events and we go on like little field trips around like the community. And yeah, that's how I explain, because not a lot of people understand what we do.
And by the way, this is Caesar is also known as DJ C Boots. DJ C Boots. We gave him that name after the first time we got him to DJ. We're like, you know what? Like, the best way to learn how to do something is just to do it. There's only so much that we could like teach you theory or show you, but it's like at some point you just have to do it. So that day at one of the events that we were at, I was like, Caesar, it's time for you to start DJing. You're DJing today. And Derek was the same. And that particular day, Caesar was wearing his boots. And, you know, he was DJing. And he's Caesar. So we're like, DJ C Boots. And then fast forward, I think like a month or two later, I think Grace even made the tagline for DJ C Boots. Remember that, Grace? Actually, do you want to do that tagline real quick? Remember? Okay. Come on, let's go, Grace. Let us hear it. Come on now. So pretend DJ C Boots is mixing right now. Then what would you say?
You are in DJ C Boots.
Yeah. You're in the mix with DJ C Boots. But yeah, Grace was a voice for it too. But again, it's like we just want to have fun with it too. And, you know, they even did a event, again, talking about showing them what we do at our school, where we're like, let's do stuff that we do similar in our community, but let's actually do it at our school during lunchtime. Like, why don't we bring what we do to the lunchtime vibes. And we did that. And for the most part, I handled just a couple things, but I was like, hey, this is your show. This is your event. You guys go for it. And they did such a great job from both setting up. We have very short little time to set up between like class and lunch, and then the tear down right after lunch. And it was all about working as a team. I was telling them, communicate with one another, talk to each other, ask if someone needs help. If you need help, make sure you ask for help. Little things like that. And they came together as a team and did it. And so that's what it's all about. And everyone has different roles and jobs. And that makes me so proud.
It should, because you guys are learning like valuable skills. Like the very fact that you're exposed to this so young, it makes a big difference because, again, I didn't get much exposure to this till my 20s or 30s, you know. And by that time, I'm already like, where was I this whole time? Was I just like an NPC or something? Like, you know? But at some point when you start seeing these conversations are actually happening, it's like, whoa, this is good. You know, we're doing a good thing here.
Yeah, exactly. No, I feel that a lot. And it's just good. And I just want to thank you too, Eddie. Again, thank you so much for reaching out. I think this has been a great experience for me, watching our youth here like soak it all in and seeing like what other community radio stations are all about, what your show is all about, and the type of things that we could achieve, and the things that if you keep dreaming and really working hard towards those dreams, you could pretty much be able to make those things come true for you. And so I just want to thank you before our show ends here today with you. But just really, I really appreciate you reaching out too, because I think that's part of it, like you said, finding ways to collaborate with folks, even from across the city. You know?
Exactly. I mean, LA's huge, time. You know?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
We'll find a way to connect with everybody, you know? And like, that's what I've been trying to do, at least for sure, through Social Primate, is just to find people from different pockets of LA, Southern California, that just show that we're all in this together. And I think if we're able to understand that and really come into terms with the power that we have if we can unify, that's how that's how we start changing narratives.
Yeah.
And but another question for all you guys, what do you see yourselves doing with what you're learning over the next couple of years?
I feel like this experience would lead me to more opportunities, because before I entered this internship program, I wanted to go into the military as a nurse. And that was just my main goal. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm definitely going to do this. But now I'm here. I'm like, wait, I could do a little bit more, can I? And after I noticed that I have a very powerful voice like we all do, and I could do some good with this voice, with my ideas, with my opinions, and being a voice for others, I was thinking, why not go into the political world? Why not become the mayor or run for it? Maybe aim something higher and maybe be a chairwoman or something. Be something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is what this opportunity has presented.
Yeah, I like that, because it goes back to the thing, like it allows you to imagine what you could be, what you could do now that you're comfortable in what you've been exposed to, you know? And I think that is a key right there. Just being able to be put in like in front of it, and you at this point start taking control of those reins and deciding how you're going to make these tools work for you. How about you guys, Grace, Caesar?
Even before this internship, I low-key didn't know what I really wanted to do with my life. Like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And then I started noticing my brother's also in the filming industry, and he does like somewhat of the production, like setting up the lights, setting up mics, the video cameras, all of that. And I saw that as really cool, and I wanted to do that like at some point, like something small, as part-time or anything. And after I saw this internship, I was like, I might as well take this as like a stepping tool for me to gain some experience. And then later on, after I graduate, I can use these skills as an actual like thing in real life. I can get paid for it. So definitely it has built a stepping tool for me, and also a lot of things that I can possibly extract that and put it onto my jobs and stuff like that. So
yeah. What about anybody else?
I forgot the question.
Like, how do you feel like these what you've been through, what you've been learning, helps you solidify what you want to do?
All of this is helping. This like more hands-on type stuff, and it's new skills that I'm learning. I feel like this can take me to being not like a teacher, but also like a teacher, teach others how to do new stuff like DJing, because I'm new to that, so I want to learn more about that. Yeah, just being there to help others.
You guys want to pitch in on that?
For my future career, I think this helps me because it helps me communicate with others. I'm thinking about going into like environmental sciences to become like a teacher, and this obviously helps me learn communication skills of communicating with like others in college or like colleagues or maybe kids I could possibly be teaching.
Yeah. Now you guys have some inspiring words, you know.
This will help. Being in Valley Views will help me out in the future because it helps me gain communication skills. Like, for example, I want to be an engineer, so like I need to have better communicating skills, and I need to figure out better on technology. So I never been around this much technology in my life, so it's a pleasure to like know how to control any soundboards or cameras.
Yeah, no, that information is going to be, again, valuable for the rest of your guys' lives. And you don't have to stick to the music if you don't want to. You know, it evolves. But as long as you're consistent with yourself and with what your intentions are, you guys will get wherever you guys need to be. But thank you so much for making the time to come out here, all of you. I appreciate that we were able to have this collaboration episode happen with Valley Views. And outside of that, where can people find the show? Like, where can people tune in?
Yeah, so to tune in, you can go to our Instagram at Valley Views SFV. We have a link there for our live shows that happen on Sundays. Also, our YouTube channel at Valley Views SFV, or our website, valleyviewssfvmedia.com as well. Or check out the KROJ app on the Apple Store. Download that, and you could check out our shows there, as well as the shows for our other, shows that we have on our beautiful community station, KROJ Radio Olin.
Oh, actually, I have a question for Mr. Perez. What message do you want to leave the viewers about the internship here?
Wow, look, they're like a co-host here. I love it. See?
I have to hire one of them.
For real, that's right. Again, just like I said, just thank you for everyone that listens, tunes in to Social Primate, to KQBH, and for supporting your local community station here in Boyle Heights, out of the Boyle Heights Arts Conservatory on 101.5 FM. I think it's so important and critical that community radio stations are supported, not just listened to. And if you love what you hear, the programming, make sure you support their program, support their mission with not just tuning in, liking them, but even open up your wallets, your purses, when you can, when they have fund drives and things of that sort, because these take a lot of effort. A lot of it is volunteer hours, and I think it's so important that we give back in whatever way we can. But I think I just want to lastly just say that the power, again, that goes back to us in community, and it goes back to, in order to make a difference, we want to always think globally, but again, just act locally, making sure that you take care of those around you, and feel free to have folks take care of you when you need it to.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you guys again so much for coming out. Grace, Natalie, Caesar, Vanessa, Derek, Hector, I appreciate the time you guys took to do this, and just to be, in the studio while this was happening. That way you guys are exposed to more information and just how to just be yourselves in whatever you do. So, for sure. And Hector, one last thing, I do appreciate what Valley Views has done, because I think you've been able to create something where people are not just listening, but they're also to participate and just build within their communities. And I think that's important, because sometimes, like I mentioned early on, we can be we're very passive sometimes with the information we get. We're just receivers of it. But if we're able to do something like how you guys are doing and take control of that narrative, it's going to take us everywhere.
That's right. No, thank you for that.
Everybody else, you're listening to KQBHLP, Los Angeles, California, 101.5 FM. We'll see you guys soon.
We're going through the rain, and we push through, and we arrive to where we wanted to, and we realize that the rain never really goes away, even after we receive what we wanted. But fuck it. We stay dancing in the rain. What? I've been pulling out my bomber since I moved up to the Bay. The weather is so different from the south side of LA. So a little peak of sun rays, I see them then exclaim, I'm getting air. Pay too much for coffee, sit next to white people with green hair. Hair pants and thong sandals while I'm rocking Jordan Airs. French braids in my hair. Damn from the rain, but I don't care. I still looking fly as hell. RZA graphic tee, Bobby Digital, this shit is rare. Look, ain't no gloomy weather keeping me restrained. I'm dancing in the rain, I'm evolving through this pain. Got my man by my side, takes my load off when I'm strained. Think about the things I didn't have that I worked and I gained now. This shit is crazy, wow. What to complain about? I rap and influence a generation to be brown and proud. Leave a mark because I was myself. Though I fell, dust myself off, got back up and I excel. Look.
Jacket. I still feel protected from bullets, I'm never lacking. The action in the city streets, leaving the innocent gone. While I come home and sit on the throne, I take my crown off, smoke me an L, I call the W. Made it through another day, the rain on these mother fools. Not I, I'm staring at the rain until I'm cockeyed. Y'all doing fake shit to get a mock prize, stabilize water puddles. I do this for the ones that wake up to start a hustle. Rain, hail, sleet, or snow, I push the bubble. You know I'm gon' reign supreme over my struggles. You know I'm gon' stand and lean over whatever brings me trouble. White kiss me in the rain, baby, I love that. Water leak, can't take the mop from us. The umbrella can't stop thunder.